here's an interesting story. So you may have seen this, I believe it was in the New York Times recently. Former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens, who is retired, several hundred years old, wrote an article about the Second Amendment. In that range. And about how he would like to change the Second Amendment, adding a few words. He'd like to see it read this way: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and here are the words he'd add, while serving in the militia shall not be infringed. In other words, unless you're in a militia, according to former Supreme Court Justice Jones, you would not be allowed to have guns.
So wants to change this. Now, the Milwaukee County Sheriff, David Clarke Jr., he was very upset about this. In fact, spoke to a big crowd at NRA convention this week and said he would actually have something different that he would add to the Second Amendment. Listen.
I have a better way of clearing up any confusion that activist judges have about the meaning of the Second Amendment. I would add these 7 words at the end of the clause: the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Keep your hands off our guns, damn it. There, those 7 words should clear up any confusion. Ladies and gentlemen, the armed citizen made America free, and the armed citizen will keep America free.
This Sheriff Clarke, you'll remember him from last year, too. He was making headlines because he put out these radio ads that basically was telling his constituents in his community to consider getting firearms for themselves because calling 911 was no longer their best option. So he's been a huge advocate for law-abiding citizens to take up arms.
And former Justice Stevens has some other interesting amendments to the Constitution that he would be making, including basically outlawing the death penalty, capital punishment in America. And now I saw this morning, let's legalize marijuana as well.
So here's the constitutional amendment I'd like to see. Any public official and or rich and powerful person who calls for taking away my guns and your guns ought to give up his armed bodyguards. You disarm first. Why is it that the people who want to take your guns away are surrounded by armed guards to keep their families safe? So they're totally fine. But you go it alone.
And
I'm not for that.
And to call it an amendment, I mean, it's effectively, you're talking about repeal.
You just let's make the laws apply to everybody. You pass Obamacare, you live under Obamacare. You pass gun control, you give up your armed guards. Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's a very big issue with Hollywood too, who have these armed guards.
Of course,
it's the same thing. Just like them flying around on these private jets, while they're also, you know, saying that they love the environment.
But they're really important. I mean, they need armed guards. You don't.
Right.
Maybe a new government constitution amendment in terms of a ban on governmental hypocrisy.
That would be great.
That's the new
Can you get that going?
Yeah, let's start it today.
What do you think about this, folks? Hit us up, friends at Fox News.